a very unceremonious entrance into the live feed. I have no idea, Nicole, where the intro video is. So
I just started looking for it. I was like, oh no, I don't know if he knows where it's at.
I have no idea where anything is. And as I was doing it, it started looking at my photos, and I'm like, oh, I don't want those photos up there. So I'm going to leave that to you from now on.
Yeah,
just
sorry.
to the video banners. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hello.
Hi.
Good to see everybody.
It's been a while.
I know it has been. And I feel like I'm very small in my frame, like I'm just going away. 35 millimeter for the win, I guess. Well, welcome. It's been a while. What have you guys been up to? That's awesome. Great to hear it. And I'm really excited to talk to you about all that.
All the things.
I'm being super duper snarky today, and I apologize for that. But we've got a couple of people joining us, and Sisela is here. Thank God. Sisela is around. What would be a live stream without her? And if you are in the chat, just go ahead and give StreamYard permission. First day with the new lips. StreamYard permission to use your likeness and DNA samples and name and all the things.
Bank account information.
Yeah, bank account information, routing numbers specifically. Hi.
No, Sisela, it would just be less fun if you weren't here.
Absolutely. So, it's been interesting. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on since last week. I know we kind of caught up, but I will just go around the room. Nicole, how are you?
Okay. I had a crummy one of those days over the weekend where like you're taking everything personally, like everything is out to get you. Any little small thing that happens, like if you stub your toe, you're like, the table was out to get me. Like everything just does it. But lots of nice people were nice to me, and that always makes me feel better. And I actually took some photos over the weekend, which has been a while. My kiddo, my 14-year-old had grown his hair out quite long, and he's one of those people who has like naturally, it's like that golden bronze colored hair, and he has curls. And so I don't have any girls, I have all boys. So he grew his hair out, and it was my only little moment of like, it's so pretty. And then he wants to join ROTC. And so they have like grooming standards, of course. And so we took him to get his hair cut yesterday. But before we did that, I was like, we have to take advantage of your long hair because he inherited some of his mother's nerdiness, and he's got like a ranger costume that he wears when he goes and does like art, like he goes and does cosplay and like all that kind of stuff. And so we dressed him up in all this different stuff, and I took a bunch of pictures and took advantage of his anachronistic hair. I wish it wasn't, even though it still is. Some man called him a lady because they were walking past him, and I think saw him from behind. Is like, excuse me, lady. So my kid got a kick out of that. But anyway, now he has short hair. And so, yeah, but took photos. We'll be editing, hopefully, those pretty soon and looking at them. But aside from that, I've just been doing book stuff.
I've been seeing it. The marketing's pretty incredible. You're doing a ton. I still love that AI comic book chat thing.
It's so
I've
cool.
seen a couple of other people do it as well. And it's really, really kind of interesting to see how it's working its way into art. Right. So I'm pretty sure I'll see nothing but TikTok videos about this soon.
Probably. But, you said it now, and the overlords are listening.
TikTok. Yeah.
It's actually not even me speaking. This is just an avatar of me. And it's all AI programmed. So.
Yay. Hi, Kat.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey. Speaking of which, Becca, you are somewhat AI programmed. Talk to me. What's going on? How's your October of monsters going?
Oh, well, that is coming. I'm actually planning on doing Drawloween with one of my kids. So we've been like kind of amping up and getting excited about that. So I'm pretty stoked that my middle child is embracing art more. And he's like getting really into it. He's really into pixel art. He's been dabbling in some AI stuff too, but he's like working on pixel games and like learning a little bit of like game development and like doing character art for his D&D group. And I'm just like, yes, I've won.
absolutely admit age and say, what are pixel games? Is that
That's
like
within your age range? Games like little pixel dot, like old school video games.
oh, okay, all right. I just didn't know if
Yeah.
there was like a new
Yeah, like Snake and stuff.
Yeah, like Snake. Or like
changing the language. Cap means lie, and so I didn't know what pixel means. So
I mean, I'm with you there. My youngest child, she came home from school the other day and she told me like, okay, bet. And I'm like, what did you just say to me? Like, what is this?
no cap? Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole new world.
I'm still trying to figure out where a Google Pixel is. So, you know,
Right? Google's got one, Facebook has one. I clearly do not. And don't know how they incorporate into games. So we shall move on. Bassam, besides your tech issues with Google Pixel, what's been happening up in the Great White North?
Great White North is almost getting there soon, but it's been getting cooler. Just like you, I guess. But no, I've been I've been very busy. I'm still engrossed or in my retouching and video production. I got a bunch of stuff to do.
Nice.
Also, my consulting, I got a new mandate. As much as I'm trying to stop that, I got a new juicy mandate from the same company I'm coaching up north, which will add on some work, but it was worth it, so I took it. So I've been working on that also. And it's accompanying the leadership team and helping them get structured with proper governance and putting things in place and all the fundamentals that need to be in place to be effective as a leadership team. That's the kind of the mandate for 6 months, which will take about a day a week out of my about
So
a bit less.
It's the herding cats project again.
It's herding 5 cats that know each other for 20 years and somehow can't work well together.
So you've met my family. Kat, you're launching products like you're on Shark Tank. Tell me about the bag. I want everybody that's on here to know about the bag.
Oh, I love the bags. So, I travel for work a lot and have for a long time. And it was always really frustrating that any gear bags that I found or was using, like none of them had any style to them and their function was minimal. And I was like, look, I need it to fit here in this space in the overhead or under a seat. I need it to carry light and multiple lenses and gear and cards and adapters and cords and all the things. And I need it to roll because I'm tired of schlepping all this stuff on my back. And every time I thought I was getting close and I'd be like, oh, this will work. This totally works for this thing. And then I would get it and be like, well, not entirely. It doesn't really work that way. And then I had a roller for a minute, maybe last year. And I was carting around my ELB 500. And so the battery on that sucker is as big as my head. And I could use that roller that I had for that. And even on location on shoots, like I would have like a stand running down into this roller bag. And like, it was extra. And I was like, you know what, just design one. And I was like, what does that process look like? And then I sourced like a fulfillment center that would connect me with other designers that actually like could do it instead of me just sketching things out on my iPad and going, okay, who makes it? And so I've been in like pre-pro with it since November of last year. And now we're on pre-sale for it. And it's just so damn sexy and so good. It's upstairs right now. I should get it.
You should get it and show it off.
Yeah, it's super cool getting to play with it. I really, in talking to you over the months and months and months and learning about it and hearing about it and, kind of seeing the sketches and whatnot, I didn't realize just how much room it actually has in it because, you're talking about under the seat or overhead, right? And you're like, every other backpack out there is just kind of crammed and it gives you a little bit of pocket space. But I couldn't believe actually how much space was in this and good padding. And then I was kind of looking at it like, oh, it's a little bit feminine for me, but I'm all about tools and having the right tools for the right job. So I'm really inspired by the direction that you're going with it. I think it's going to be great for you. I really do.
Let's see. How messy is this room?
Like,
Just
is
keep
it
it pointed at the
safe to
ceiling.
allow people into this room? Yeah, I'm super excited. I know Kat has shared some stuff in the group. So if you are in the Artist Forge Facebook group, I would encourage you to go look at the links, and I think some video also that was shared. Like, it is a sleek camera bag. If you are a photographer, you want to get your hands on that.
I'm
All right.
waiting for the affiliate sales codes so that I can run it and make passive income.
Oh, you guys, I might not understand how this works.
We're here.
Just give me an option to spin my camera.
Take your wrist and do this. Yeah, there it is. That's exactly what happens when you do that, right? Woo! Yeah, it's so cool looking, and the material that you did use on the outside of it, this like this matte alligator, is just so cool looking.
So like, there's
Looks rich.
Yeah.
So that'll fit up to 15.
Nice.
Did you purposely design it to open with one hand while you're holding a camera?
Gotta make stuff easier on yourself.
Yeah, I couldn't get over how much is in it.
Yeah, when I saw the video and like everything that was in there, I was like, damn, that's a good use of space.
Right. Yeah, normally I'm like one big lens and a body, but
And like, I didn't bring my pro photo this week, but normally that lives here. But all of these are, you can take them out. But all of this, it's that deep, right? And some cables and some batteries. More stuff. But then there's another room on this side. Here, little action. This is pretty cool too. Oh, rising. Sorry, I didn't. But this piece here, like, this is adjustable. Fits like a tripod or my Portrait Master's water bottle. But this opens up
nice.
and has like a little baggy thing in here. So if you get a tripod, it'll set into that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I really like how much thought you put into it from a photographer's perspective, rather than just being a bag designer and thinking like, oh, you just need a couple of these things. Like, the stuff that you travel with over and over and over, it takes that type of knowledge to design a product that's actually going to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, stoked for you.
Thank you.
And did you source it somewhere where they make where they actually manufacture this type of bag, or is it some? Yeah.
So there's the designer I've been working with manages the production side of it.
Okay.
He's actually based in India.
That's good.
Oh.
But he's been super cool to work with, like, in a big way.
It's great.
That is outstanding. Well, congratulations. That is like the fulfillment of a lot of long, hard work. I'm super excited for you.
Yes. And so
And I can bet this is one of many more products to come.
Well, we'll see. Because we're on pre-sale for it right now through October 3rd. And that's for anybody who would want it delivered this year. So yeah, fingers are crossed. It's definitely been a labor of love, but I'm super excited.
So great. So I guess, kind of the theme of the week, and Nicole, tell me if you want to talk about anything in particular, but the theme of the week seems to be balance and figuring out how to balance work with all the other pursuits, right? Whether it's product creation or Renaissance fairs or haircuts or, consulting or Drawloween. I can't pronounce that correctly. It just doesn't flow correctly. So what are you guys doing for balance, right? And in all of this, exactly, Nicole, right? So I see your eyes. But so there's a lot of talk, right? Especially in the education circles about you just have to do this and you just have to do this and you just put your calendar this way and you just kind of do these things and everything falls into balance. And it's never that case, ever. So, how do you guys maintain proper balance mentally? I know for me, and I was talking to Kat about this last week, that there's only so many hours in the day, only so many minutes in the day. And I know I have the expectation that I'm going to change the space-time continuum and add more hours and more minutes into the day, and that I'm going to be able to accomplish more. And it's never the case. I'm still trying. I'm still working hard at it, but it never really works. So I'm constantly resetting my own expectations about what I can get done and what I can't get done. And for me, I have to relieve myself of a lot of pressure and standards that I hold myself to, in order to feel like, you know what, I did these 97 things, but because I didn't do these 2 things doesn't mean the day is a failure. It just means I get another opportunity to do those tomorrow. Right. And so looking at it from a slightly more positive stance about look at all this amazing stuff that I did and I took these steps towards my goals. And tomorrow I get to do these couple of things and it's going to get me even closer rather than being like, fuck, I didn't do it again. God. And that's typically how I crawl into bed most nights. But, if we're able to find that balance and reframe a little bit, I'm at least finding for myself that I feel like there's more momentum rather than the start, stop. But everybody's balancing their things differently. How are you guys maintaining, kind of proper mindset with all the stuff on your plate and being as ambitious as you all are? I throw that out to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I had to remind myself, especially last week or the week before, both actually, of once we had a discussion about setting priorities and the advantage of being your basically self-employed or is that it's nobody's business. You can do whatever you wish, right? But we tend to forget that, right? We for exactly the same reasons you said, accomplish. So I really had to remind myself and say, you know what, it's really not the end of the world. There's some stuff that I've been sitting on for 5 months. So what if it's 6 months? So what is 7 months? So everything's kind of coming together at the same time. And I just got to focus on the things that actually make a difference in the time or in the phase that I'm living right now. And be conscious that there's certain things long-term that I need to do, but really it's not the end of the world. And it was, I was really starting to feel guilty, taking away time from my family and so on. And finally, believe it or not, yesterday, Sunday, we binged on Netflix for like 9.5 or 10 hours straight.
Respect.
Like from 1 p.m. till 10:30 at night. And we were watching Yellowstone. We started watching Yellowstone. For anybody who's seen it, it's so good. Yeah.
Everybody in that show is a terrible person and you don't care. You're just like, I'm so invested.
You can't look away.
Yeah. So listen, you're in charge. Nobody else cares. Right?
Yeah.
As long as you meet your commitments to your clients, the rest you just have to look in the mirror and say it's okay.
And it's so super important. I've got a friend who runs a video business and she has this wonderful thing where she knows how many gigs she needs to book a year to live the lifestyle that she wants. She fills that up and then between gigs doesn't do anything. Or does all the pursuits that she wants, surfs or paddle boards or hikes or whatever. And I look at that and I get incredibly envious of it, right? I get envious of having that consistency and the ability to just kind of do whatever you want. I don't know if I'm not programmed like that or if I just haven't given myself the capability to look around and say, hey, Matt, you're running your own business. You can take as much time off as you want. And I don't do that enough. So that's awesome, Bassam. Nicole, Becca, Kat,
I think
what about
just
you
before
guys?
On what you just said, just the magic word that you said is really she books her gigs in advance. And the question is, how the F do you do that? But anyways, Yeah.
Well,
that's
it's,
kind of a key. That's a key aspect.
That's a different
right?
call, Bassam. That's a totally
Yeah, that's the name. Yeah, exactly.
and Kat, I think, just offered you coaching and mentoring sessions. So no, but in all seriousness, like you guys, do you feel this pressure? Are you able to alleviate it? How do you guys deal with it? I'm really interested to know how you guys specifically do this.
I've been kicking into a new idea where like I do what I want first instead of waiting until I do the other things, right? Like the things that I know make me feel good, whether that's getting my hair done or getting a massage or taking a flippin' nap. And I'm finding that that's really been very useful in how I'm able to show up in work stuff. Like I can show up more wholeheartedly when I feel rested and cared for, and like I get to be the priority instead of the last.
Yeah.
And I've only been testing this now for like maybe 6 weeks, but it's going well.
Makes a lot of sense, because if you wait until you are completely burnt out to do any of the things that you enjoy, you don't get to love your life, and you're too tired to like really fully enjoy them, because sometimes you're like, it's just too much work, I'm gonna go like lay on the couch or something. But like that's I love that idea, Kat. I think that's brilliant. It seems like it should be common sense, and yet we don't give ourselves those things until afterwards. And like, I love that idea.
Yeah. That's not to say, a massage isn't great after you are really tired and have worked really hard. Like, of course. But like, I don't know, I'm able to center, it's kind of like starting your day with a meditation. Like, and I pushed that off for years and years and years. And I was like, oh, wait, there's a reason this is good. Yeah.
What about you, Becca? I know. I feel like Matt asked how we balance things, and both of us went, pound.
So I'm learning though, like actively learning, and I feel like I'm not being attacked, but I'm being targeted in our recent conversations. Like this last weekend, I took a weekend off. I didn't touch my computer.
How dare you?
I know. I did chores. I went on a date with my husband for the first time in like 6 years. Might have embarrassed him in public, which is probably why he likes me, because I'm fun, I think, maybe. But I've been kind of like breaking up my schedule, like my daily schedule now that I have time, almost like a school day. And like kind of like you were saying, Matt, about like, oh, I get to go do this tomorrow. Like I'm keeping it stricter than just doing what I want to do. And like allowing myself to think, okay, yeah, like maybe I want to do like a landscape study today, but I get to do that tomorrow. So if I get through my shit today, then I still got to go do that fun thing that I want to do tomorrow, because that's what I said that I'm going to do, instead of just allowing myself the freedom to do whatever I want and not keeping it consistent, which is the problem I've had over the last couple of years, having a very small child climbing all over my face. Is then it's like, oh, I get a minute. Okay, what is my priority? Like, what is it that I want to do? And there's too many options that I'm too excited and I can't pick, and then I have no time and I go lay on the couch and turn into a vegetable, which is not productive. But so keeping those really strict regiments in place for myself is working pretty well so far, and putting hard deadlines on it too. Like, okay, I've got 3 hours to work on this project. I've got 25 minutes to go check my email, and I'm not going to roll over, because then I'm going to get distracted, or I'm going to, maybe I'll open Facebook while I'm checking my email, and there goes an hour of my life. Like, not allowing myself that and setting timers and like keeping things in check is working. It's working for me right now. Yeah.
Okay, Nicole. You can't avoid this too. Like, no, the question's coming to you.
Okay. So, yes, some of the things that Becca has said has been, so I realized over the years that I am one of those people who my tendency is to want to go off and do whatever I like, or whatever is like compelling to me. And so if I don't put rules on things and if I don't build like habits and daily structures, I will just squirrel after any shiny object that makes me have like, you know, oxytocin or like whatever happens in your brain. I lost the word, don't judge me. But whatever I'm just talking to the audience for posterity, you know. But like whatever gives you feel good chemicals, I'm like, ooh, you know, and I will 100% go squirreling after that. And so I have to build like daily routines and structures that are repeatable and that I enjoy, so that I don't allow a backup of things that make me feel overwhelmed, if that makes sense. Like the longer the list of to-do things gets, the more stressed out I get, because it starts to feel so overwhelming that it's like, I know that you can eat an elephant one bite at a time, but it's still a really fucking big elephant, right? So like if I make those daily rules and schedules for myself, I tend to be more regularly productive, which kind of cuts off the need for that extra balance, if that makes sense. Like I know that I won't be balanced. So if I put the rules in place now, the balance takes care of itself. So certain things like not working after a certain time, right? Like I have I set up a Google Calendar for myself that has the daily, kind of my daily schedule. I get a reminder on my watch that's like, hey, it's 1 minute till writing time, or hey, it's family time now. Because otherwise I can absolutely sit here and get lost in things forever. So like having those structures helps enforce balance before I get to burnout mode where like it has to do it. So that part is definitely helpful for me. But the place where I struggle is when people go do things that are your relaxed time or your me time or your, you know, when I have those opportunities, I'm like back at the computer, you know what I mean? Like, or back at my craft station, or like the things that people do to relax. I am back where I was before, because I just somehow feel better having done or made them. Even if I don't entirely know whether that's going to serve me well. I'm just going on a hunch, but I'll be like, I should go draw some more character art. And everybody's like playing video games downstairs or something. And I'm like at my computer, you know, sketching away or whatever. So that part of the balance is hard, especially if we're at home. Like if we're not taking off and we don't have activities planned, if things aren't scheduled, I revert back to my comfort place, which is making stuff around here. So I think I could do better there and allow myself to have more hobbies that are not connected to work, because my work and my hobbies are interconnected. So the things I do for fun, like making stuff, is still connected to my work stuff. And so I don't know if maybe giving myself those kinds of hobbies or allowing my non-work related hobbies to take up more time just for pure enjoyment and not enjoyment plus work would help. But those are kind of my main things. So trying to give myself a system to work within, and then sometimes recognizing I have to remove myself from the work environment so I don't just automatically click over into
like your climbing, for example, which would be separate from creating stuff.
Yes,
right,
which
fun.
is why I was late this morning. But yes.
Yeah,
we went climbing and then did our grocery, like got groceries and stuff. But then my husband opened up the garage door and my photography gear was set up in there, so it whacked into it was a big mess. Anyway, but yes.
Yeah, but you said you know, it's so easy to kind of do what we want to do versus what we have to do, and it's like it's so easy to just kind of jump to that. And one thing that I did this week, which I rarely do, right, is decide to finish something instead of keeping it open. I could have. Okay, I had a client who was coming. I'll give you an exact example. I had a client who's coming for a reveal this coming Saturday. I had pictures to take care of, and I had to produce a video, right? And I had done the pictures, and then she called me and she said, well, she's last minute thing. She's going to be away for the weekend, so it's going to be at least a week later. So I said, great stuff. I don't have to finish the video now, right? I can go on and do all the fun stuff I want to do that doesn't have a deadline on it. And I stopped myself and I said, no, you're going to finish the video, put it behind you. That's out of the way. Then you can go and have the fun. So just having less stuff open, I think, less stuff unfinished, whether it's there's a deadline or not, helps And yeah.
There's a couple of things that you said, Nicole, and just to kind of finish up on that hobbies versus work thing. It's hard. I'm very similar to you, right? Nerdy and love my computer stuff and love being in front of my computer doing things, even not work related stuff. I love being here and building things and producing things and just it's where I live, right? So the lines between hobbies and work are blurred. And one of the things that I've always kind of looked at, right? I could look at this and say my hobbies are work, my work is my hobby, and it's all kind of blended together and there's no cutoff. But I try to look at the things that I'm doing with my hobbies as additional experience, additional learning that I can then bring into work, right? So for me, it's, maybe I'm in some delusional state and I'm just really rationalizing how much I work, which is absolutely possible. But it's just, I find that it's okay when the work and the hobbies are very similar. It's just how you view it. If you're viewing your hobby as work, that's dangerous. If you're viewing a hobby as a hobby and the addition of knowledge that you can bring back to work, it's a different story, right? You are giving yourself that break. A couple of other things, the calendar piece, I've been doing that and starting to really, Kat put me onto this of defining CEO time. Right. So as business owners, do we spend enough time setting the strategy for the future of the business? Are we designing the programs that we know are going to work? Are we thinking about things 3, 4, 6, 12 months in advance so that we can plan out our marketing? Right. And the only real time that you have to do that is when you are creating, CEO time for you to work on the business rather than sending emails and doing all the collection stuff. So hearing your, adherence to a calendar and having that run your life is something that really kind of hits me hard because I got away from that. And I think that was a big part of my spiral out of control. And now that I'm getting back into not only working directly with all these different Google calendars, all different color codes, all different things, but defining out not just here's my work, here's my playtime, but here's my defined strategy time. Here's my admin tasks, right? Yeah. And kind of doing what you do, Becca, is whether it's the Pomodoro method or, 25 minutes or whatever, setting specific work blocks so that I can give myself the rest. It's hard, man. It's all discipline to really set this stuff up and adhere to it and break some of these bad habits that we have. But it's so necessary. It's perfect and it's beautiful. Is that pixel art, Becca? Is that pixel art?
I mean, they're in blocks, so maybe
it's calendar art.
But it's hideous. Like, it's hideous, right?
But it makes sense, right?
Yeah. And it's on one page. I'm not touching fucking Google Docs or Google Calendar. I'm not going to spend time of my life color coding anything because I'm going to get lost.
Well, that's part of the good thing. So the way that I have mine set up is just essentially it's alternating days because I climb some days and walk other days. So my mornings are a little bit different, but it's basically wake up at this time. I have this much time to get a workout done. I have this much time to do my chores. I have this much time to do marketing in the morning. I have this much time. So I have time blocked everything, but really like once it's there, it's done and I don't touch it. If something happens like this morning where we have to, go do our groceries or like run errands or something, then I ignore whatever I'm missing in that time block and I'll pick it up again tomorrow. But like, I don't have to open anything. I don't have to open Google Calendars. I don't have to do anything. My watch just tings and I'm like, yep, it's time for that. And once I'm used to that schedule enough, I don't need to be told anymore. I just know 9 to 10 is for marketing and whatever. So like, that part of it's really nice because once it's set up, I don't have to look at it or think about it. I just get those little reminders, which is helpful for me because as soon as the routine steps out of habit and goes to thought, I start rationalizing things, being like, well, I could push it here if I need to do this and I can that. No, I need to not have to think about it at all. But like, yeah, that's at least for me, like that's the good part because I have a calendar there on my wall. I have a calendar there on my wall. I have shit on my phone. I have things I write on. Nothing works as good because I forget to look at them because looking at them is not a habit. I take notes in my journals. I forget to open my journals and look at my notes because it's not a habit. And I really think that the only way for me to maintain any kind of consistency is once I can habitualize something, because otherwise I'm just like, woo, floating off into oblivion, and I will default to making stuff. So like that's if I feel overwhelmed or I don't know what to do next, or there's like too much for me to handle in my executive function area, I'm like, draw a picture. Like I just default because it feels productive and I still have a thing that I did and I still feel like I've done something, and that's my safe space, is to make things. So that's like, if I don't, then I have all this great stuff. I have no idea why I made it. I have no plans for what to do with it. I have no plans for how to release it. Nothing. I just have things now. So like, it's not the best way.
You know, and I'm very much the hybrid of paper and electronic in trying to keep myself scheduled, right? So if you could see the fucking disaster that is all of this, right? I keep it off of camera, but I've got this calendar. I've got this calendar. I've got Google Calendar. I've got legal pads. I've got all this stuff, right? Up here, it all makes sense. Is it consistent? No, because I really haven't built the habit of following it, right? I'm great at making lists. I'm great at organizing. I suck at following through at it. And so, you know, Becca, I've got this little weekly schedule template that I made that I'll just put in the group, and anybody can download it and print it and just sketch everything out by hours during the day. And it really helps me a lot define those times. And I paste it right here on my desk so I can look at it and constantly be reminded of what I have to do. Does it create a little anxiety? Yeah, I have to figure that part out. But, you know, I look at it and it at least keeps me on track to say, these are the things that in a moment of clarity, I decided I needed to do this week. Everything else that comes at me 100 miles an hour is secondary to that, because this is what I need to maintain proper business and life balance, right? If someone comes by, go ahead, Kat.
No, go. Please finish.
I was just going to say, so when things come by and someone's like, hey, do you want to go grab lunch, or do you want to go get dinner or whatnot? I really have to step back and say, okay, where are my boundaries with myself? Am I setting the right boundary with this relationship? Do I go? Do I shuffle things around? Or do I stick to the habits and the discipline to say, no, I can't do it now. I can do it at 3:00, but I can't do it now. Those are the things that I still struggle with, right? Because I do want to live life. I do want to have, that's why I got into business for myself. But I'm finding that it's easy to be like, oh yeah, no, I'll go out with you. That's fine. And just push off all the work. And then I'm right back in the same spot. So Kat, that was just my thought that I wanted to finish up.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you did, because I do that constantly. And I also live in the land of Google Calendar and legal pads and my Phoenix Journal and like all the things. But instead of calling it anxiety, I'm now referring to it as a sense of urgency.
Ooh.
That's what we always called it, you know, when I worked in the bar business. Was
Sure.
urgency about this, like, get, right? And looking at that was just, oh, I need to move faster, which would make me anxious and da-da-da-da. But now it's just a sense of urgency. Like, I need to execute. That's what needs to happen right now. And one of the other things that Bassam was mentioning earlier, like the video piece, right? That normally, like, you were like, yeah, put it off. No, I'm going to do it. When I have those things and I know that I'm like putting it off for the sake of, I don't want to, I have to remind myself by saying, what impact will this have on this project, on my life, right? Is that going to cause me to have a sense of urgency on Saturday morning before she comes in for her reveal? Or will just wrapping it up make it just so easy for her to walk in the door and us to have a really great image selection? So yeah, what impact will this have on the outcome?
Sense of
That's
urgency.
a great question to teach yourself to ask. I want to grab a couple comments that we have here. So our friend in Facebook, thanking Bassam for reminding them that it's okay to take our time, and the anxiety that accompanies all of these things we need to get done, which I really like. Cats. I mean, it's one of the things that you learn to say it in the military, like move with a sense of purpose, right? Like go where we got things to get done and not to focus on it. Or I guess when we call it anxiety, we also give it the power that anxiety has, right? So maybe like the way we think of it kind of helps as well. But I really love their comment at the end that says, but no one is pressuring me. It's all me. And I think that's such a great reminder because, and my mom reminds me of this all of the time as well. She's like, okay, like who's telling you this? Who's the one telling you you're not going to make it if you don't, or you're not going to get, if you don't do this thing? Well, it's me. Like I've obviously built a set of rules for myself inside of my head that this is what it's going to take. And some of that is obviously like, some of that comes from a real place. Some of that is built from, learning from people and hearing what they did and saying, okay, it seems like these are the kind of steps that you need to take. But it's also a whole fucking lot of conjecture, right? Like, let's be real, because we assume that we're going to follow the same path and make it to the same place. And yet each of us have to take individual steps in our own circumstances. And oftentimes luck or providence or whatever you want to call it shows up in a way that we never could have expected. And all of a sudden now we're doing this thing or we got to this place and then we get to pass our survivorship bias onto the next people and say, well, this is how I did and what happened to me. And they get to stress over it, which maybe we should maybe we should put caveats before all that stuff. But yeah, it's all this conjecture and all us making this assumption that if we don't, or if we can't or whatever, then everything is going to fall apart. And like, I'm doing that to myself right now. My husband is, he will be officially retired from the military on the 1st of October. And we are waiting on this position that he is supposed to be able to get. And that means we are probably going to be living off of our savings for a while. And we're making sacrifices to decide to stay here. But that also means I personally feel the pressure of being able to perform and help and continue to bring in, income during that time so that we don't have to start living off of ramen. But I don't have any knowledge of how long that's going to take. It could be 2 weeks and we'd be fine, but in my head, I'm like, it's going to be 7 months and we're going to be, eating ramen and I'm making up a bunch of shit and putting all of this pressure on myself when I don't know what's going to happen. So recognizing what we are contributing to the situation internally when we have no proof, I think is a really important thing to remember.
Yeah, it's the stories we tell ourselves, right? And this brings us back to a conversation we had, I don't know, a year and a half ago, right? And I find the same thing as you, Nicole, that I make up all these stories. I'm holding myself to some standard that clearly I set for myself, or is a virus that is in the software from my parents somewhere, right? And I just can't get rid of this pop-up. Right. And so that's the way that I think of my programming from my parents, just annoying windows and pop-ups that I can't shut off. And all that stuff kind of swims around in there. And it does take time to deprogram that. It does take time to put things in perspective, have that moment of clarity, and then figure out what that path is going to be to get to a more optimal you. Right. But all 5 of us have different ways of doing that, and we're in different stages of it. I think the big thing for me is, people are listening and hearing this, is that there's no one right way. And God knows, in everything we do, we're not going to sit here and be like, you need to do it this way. There are things that work better than others for sure. Right. But I know David Parrish was talking about, he uses Monday.com. Right. And I tried that. Awesome program. Always forgot to go to the website. Just never went, right? Going to cloud-based services for me doesn't work because I forget to go. And then it's too easy to go Instagram and I go over here. So if I can write it down and cross it off, it feels more concrete to me, as small as that is. But that act of crossing things off and, seeing a list fluctuate, get smaller and larger, and understand that I'm the only one controlling my time in that. It feels better when I'm able to cross things off. I even write stuff down as I'm about to do them. Go take out the trash, cross it off. Done. I'm awesome. Let's go drink. Right. So
Action.
Yeah, exactly. But I need to keep that dopamine hit up that I'm accomplishing something. If I don't, I have a really hard time. And I know that when I don't meditate, Kat, like you were saying, when I don't do that, it gets worse. And because I'm not giving my brain a different perspective. That's the way that I've kind of thought all this through. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I've noticed that discipline for me only comes, like you said, Nicole, from habitual practice of it, right? And then it becomes discipline. No, it just becomes a habit.
Yeah. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think I don't know if anybody else came from a family like this, but particularly because of my dad and the way he was brought up. But discipline was a big word. Like, you don't have the self-discipline. And then being in the military, like self-discipline is like a big thing. And I always thought that the reason I couldn't get certain things done was a lack of self-discipline. Like, I just did not have the intestinal fortitude to force myself to do it over and over again. And I know, like, I think most people will probably relate to that as it relates to weight loss. Like, for a lot of us, like, we've essentially been told, like, if your body looks like this, it's because you're not disciplined enough. And it's bullshit. It's bullshit, because our brains are programmed by nature to want to do certain things. And we want to chase the stuff that makes us feel good. That's not something that's wrong with us. That's like a biological imperative. We want to eat tasty things. We want to have sex. We want to hang out with people we like. Like, there are certain things that we're just programmed to want to do. Nobody wants to put themselves through hell because of some weird, thing, either like a body standard or I have self-discipline, so I did the thing. And that's not to say that people don't ever do this or that they're not good reasons to do that. My husband is one of those people that, like, if there's something that needs to be done, he will do it. He does it. He gets a sense of accomplishment and like personal value from knowing he can do things. I want to like jump off the roof for that kind of stuff. So for me, I have to find things that help me get stuff done that I enjoy. So I didn't lose baby weight until I started climbing, because there were no gym type exercises I could do regularly with enough passion to actually make anything happen. But once I started climbing, I loved the climbing enough that being healthy was a secondary effect. And so it wasn't from a lack of discipline. It was from me trying to force myself to do shit I shouldn't have been trying to do. And for most of us, there's probably a way to get the things done we want to get done that is more enjoyable than the way that people have told us it's supposed to be done. We'll just discipline yourself to do it. No, you can build your environment in a way that makes it easier. Like, put things in places where they're easily findable, or don't put snacks close to your office, or whatever. Like, you can build more enjoyable ways to do things that don't require just gutting it out and hating your life, but getting it done. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, that word just, it's a weird balance for me, because I know discipline is important, but at the same time, like, the weight that it's given and the you're a bad person if you don't have it and all of that stuff is like triggering for me, I guess.
One of the techniques that I heard used that plays right into that, right? Donald Miller, the story brand guy, has this, living a life of meaning course. And, I've talked about it before, the writing your obituary and then reverse engineering the rest of your life, right? But one thing in there, he says, when accomplishing the goals, you've got to gamify it to some degree, right? And Jerry Seinfeld had the same thing. He would show up every night at a comedy club every night, and he just put X's on the calendar every night he performed, and he wanted to see how long those strings of X's could go. Donald Miller was doing things with, he wanted to bike across the country, and the only way that he would do it is if he had an accountability partner and a friend that he was, accountable to get up every morning and do 10, 20, 30, 40 miles, right? So, but having that goal, that smaller gamifying goal to help you stay motivated, really does take off the feeling that you have to do this or there's discipline involved. It's just you're changing the way that you view it and changing the way that you view the accomplishment. And so whether it's a task or whether it's biking across country, if you can find a way to enjoy the process like you did with climbing, right, makes it feel less like work.
Right.
And how how often do we really do that? Right? Not often. Right? So, Kat, were you going to say something? It looked like you were about to say something. Or was the wind just blowing your phone sideways? But yeah, that gamifying thing really kind of opened my eyes to how I do things and how I break down time, how I dismantle my goals, and what are the things that I can do to feel good at the end of the day to say, oh, I did this. And right now with my home renovation, it's all these little things, right? I set these little goals. I invite somebody over to put the pressure on myself to get a fucking light switch on the wall, right? That's the only way that I can do that, because I'm like, the fear of shame for me is so powerful. Here's the thing. You ever want me to get me to do something for you?
That was a mistake, sir.
Shame me. Yeah. Just
now I have the keys.
yeah, and that goes for everybody. But that's the thing for me, is like my avoidance of shame is so strong that I will often use that as the thing that hangs over my head to get stuff done, because I don't want to feel embarrassed or shame. Now, is it healthy to think that way? No, not in the least. But it's what I do to motivate me for some of these small things, right? And having friends come over or doing something with someone I love is always a much better motivator for me to get stuff done. And at the end of it, it doesn't feel like work. So
shame on you, Matt. I'm still waiting for an invitation.
All right, I'll get it done. when you want to come out.
No, I love that.
Awesome. What a fun conversation today, you guys. This has been good.
Yeah. I think it's important stuff to talk about as well, especially since we had the conversation last time about this kind of fall hitting and this kind of rebirthing and renewal time. And then we're going to hit the stride where, okay, like we know where we want to go now, and now we have to do something about it. And I think a reminder to remember who's putting pressure on us, for one. But then also there's this really great quote. I want to say it's by Suman Guru, I think. But essentially, he said, humans have a really distinct capability for suffering, not because we actually suffer more than other animals do, but because pain happens in our body, but suffering happens in our mind. And we are equipped with an extraordinary imagination, which means we can imagine a whole bunch of reasons for us to suffer. And we do it above and beyond what's actually necessary. And that's, when I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, the other day when I was just having one of those days, nobody was doing anything to me. Like nothing objectively bad was happening to me. I was just in some kind of a mind state to take everything personally. Like, and this is going to be a really stupid example, and hopefully people don't think I'm petty, but hopefully you recognize if you've ever done this to yourself. But I had to run to the store to get something before my husband left. We had leftover pizza. There was enough for us to split because the boys were going to leave and go do stuff. The boys did not know that the pizza was supposed to be left for me for lunch because they were going to eat lunch out of the house. So the boy ate the pizza, and I come home expecting to find the pizza. The pizza has been eaten. Now, even though nobody did anything to me, right? My feeling is hurt because I had an expectation for what was going to happen. I was going to have this yummy leftover pizza. It's gone now. Why is everybody treating me so badly? And nobody was, right? But any little thing that happened, like the boys were leaving, they were taking one vehicle. My husband was going to go golfing with some friends. He was taking the other vehicle. I was stuck at home by myself without a car. Just little random stuff that should never do that to you. But I was doing it to myself. And probably part of that's why I was upset about it, because I know better than that. But still, every now and then, we have those days and we do those things, and we do that with our stresses and our jobs and everything else as well. We make up these reasons to have undue stress that don't really need to exist, but we don't recognize we're doing it to ourselves. Mm-hmm. We don't recognize we're the ones putting on the pressure or adding the shame that doesn't need to be there. So like
Nicole, just for you not to feel alone, okay? You're not petty, because then the same night, probably, I went through the same thing, right? We had leftover rice, but not enough leftover chicken to have this rice and chicken meal that we have. And I went ahead that night and I cooked everything around that I need thinking that I have enough rice, and then realize my daughter and her boyfriend ate the rice for lunch that day. So everything else was ready. All I had to do was take the rice out and put it in the microwave or whatever. And I felt like shit. I was pissed off at the world for the whole night. So it's not that petty, my friend.
I'm gonna DoorDash for both of you and just deliver rice and pizza.
Yeah, it's a small thing, and like in any time in your I'm not gonna say right mindset, but when you know better beforehand, or you don't have that expectation, you don't experience those things, you don't take them personally, right? But every now and then we're just in that place, and we talk, like, I know we've talked so much about that idea of awareness, of being aware of what you're thinking and aware of what you're feeling. And most of the time we're doing it to ourselves and we don't even realize it. So just making sure that we take that time to go, okay, wait a minute. And I got really good at this with my husband. We have a really fantastic, thank God, we have a fantastic marriage. But every now and then if something would happen, I'd feel myself starting to get mad. And I go, wait a minute, he didn't even do anything. You are making shit up. Like, you are inventing reasons for, like, maybe he left a sock on the floor or something. And I'm like, of course he leaves. And I'm thinking to myself, he was probably, and then all of a sudden I will, like, wait a minute. He probably was carrying a load of laundry downstairs that fell out, or whatever. Like, I'm inventing reasons for him to have done things that he never did. I just made it up in my head and got mad about it. So, like, we have really crazy, interesting brains, but if we don't recognize that we're doing it, we do end up pushing that stuff on other people. And we think to ourselves, well, my client is just selfish. And then you don't know that. Maybe your client has trauma and they don't know how to not take that out on people. Maybe, like, you just don't know. So if we could stop or just recognize that we do it and at least put a buffer between ourselves and the emotion that shows up because we're making junk up, we probably would be a lot better off. If I could take my own advice, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, no, best thing I'm going to do is just write all this stuff down, send it to you in an email so you can read it, and it'll sound like it's coming from me, and I'll just look like a genius. We're at the hour. This has been awesome. It's really interesting. Like, I love talking to you guys about this because I always feel like I'm the only one, right, that goes through this or that struggles with this. And the more I talk about it, not only does it make me feel better, but the more I realize I'm not alone in any of this, and that there is no perfect way of doing anything. And, stories, Nicole, like you said, are probably the most powerful thing that get to the core of this whole matter. What's the stories we're telling ourselves about how we own our business, how we run the business? What do we do in our art? What we think people are going to pay for something, whether we think they're going to like it or not. What are the stories that we're telling ourselves over and over and over? And how do we balance our time? How do we balance our minds between work and life and stories and pleasing ourselves and pleasing others and all the different stuff that goes into this? It all has small touch points. And I think as you start to improve in one area, it starts to spread out to those other areas where you're not getting pissed off about rice or pizza, and that you have a little bit of control over that and you can kind of see it for what it is. Really quick, before I let everybody give their last thoughts, I had a friend of mine recently. I get very worried about where people are emotionally when I'm talking to them. Right? Are they distracted? Are they sad? Did I say something wrong? Did I trigger it? Because I just kind of, do this, right? And so I try to be hyper aware of people's emotional response. And my friend said to me, if I look happy, I'm happy. If I look confused, I'm confused. Don't think there's anything more than that. So if I see, Nicole, you nodding, I'm immediately thinking, yeah, she's probably thinking this, that, or the other thing, and isn't really happy. So being able to take things at face value and just let them be face value. Trust that people are going to tell you how they're feeling, or trust that people are going to recognize the situation. Doing that has alleviated so much of our interactions, because now I can be like, okay, I saw her unhappy. Clearly there's something going on, right? So being able to be perceptive of those things can also help. So just leave stuff at face value before you start making up stories. But that was my kind of final thought. I'll leave it up to you guys to close up. We lost Kat, unfortunately, because I'm a chatterbox. But What do you guys think? Final thoughts. Go around the room.
So I saw a cute video on TikTok because TikTok is
Cute.
all things cute. And yeah. Anyway, but it was cute girl, cute hair, cute makeup, cute bedroom. And she was like, you know what I've decided to do? Like every time I don't want to do something or I'm getting distracted or, you know, whatever it is, like I have things that I have to be responsible about. Like I've decided I'm just going to do everything for the aesthetic. And then she went on to explain, like, seriously. And I kind of have applied some of this idea, but the way she put it was just so much better. Like, you know, like I'll think about like when I'm working out, like, is this what someone who has like, you know, whatever physical goal would do? Am I gonna eat half a pizza by myself? Am I gonna skip, you know, leg day? Like, no. The person that I'm telling myself that I am would do these things. So in the case of, you know, cute girl on TikTok talking about doing it for the aesthetic, like, am I, you know, whimsy, manic pixie dream girl artist, you know, would she not put on her makeup today? Would she not go for her walk and do her daily meditation? Would she not go and, you know, practice whatever it is, like paint, you know, the ducks in the park, like doing everything for that desired aesthetic or person that you say that you are and letting that drive all of the motivation, I feel like works really well. And if we break down all these, you know, daily business things or daily art things that we do, like it kind of falls within that same sort of rule, right? Is this something that a professional artist would do? Is this something that, you know, a really awesome rock climber would do? Like whatever it is, I feel like that's a good kind of like core motivation that applies really well to everything we talked about today.
I love that. There's I know I mentioned it before, but there's somebody that I used to listen to, and one of the things he said was like, am I the kind of person who, or I'm the kind of person who, like, I'm not the kind of person who has sugar in the mornings. And that is just a thing. And you build that avatar for yourself and you live inside of it until you really do become that kind of person. And here's a stupid story, but it's a true thing. I've been trying to make my life more magical, just my daily life more magical, as you can probably tell by the things that are happening behind me. But I decided that when I go out and water my garden in the morning, I am going to play Concerning Hobbits from Lord of the Rings. So I go out with my hose and I turn on the music in my backyard and it's like, do, 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 do. And I'm watering my garden as if I were like living in the Shire. And it's dumb, but it just makes me really like it ups the magic points of watering your garden by like 50 million. So like, that's the thing you can do with that same idea. Like it's for the aesthetic, right? Like if you were going to video that and show it to somebody, would they be like, I want that? Cool. That's what you can do when you water your garden in the morning. Play Concerning Hobbits and you will feel like a hobbit. So like just adding those little bits, maybe that helps too.
Bassam, how about you?
How about me? I don't know if it's final thought as much as something that I just kind of hit me. I find the most stress, the stress I get, or at least that anxiety I get when I feel that unbalance is usually because I disappointed somebody around me that I care about. Or I wasn't able to fit them into what I had planned, you know, the unknown, so it just kind of makes me wonder, you know, if I can find a way to keep that buffer time for unknowns, because that's usually unknown. It's not like you can schedule your wife in for a talk or whatever from intercourse. Although I know somebody who does that, by the way, but no, but it's not me, right?
Right.
So just trying to fit in. Yes, the impact on your client, the impact on yourself, very important. But again, people around you that you care about, and how do you keep enough buffer, enough flexibility to give them what they need, right? Because it becomes kind of an exponential thing. You know, the more and more people you have around you. I'm lucky. You know, I'm at a stage now where there's only one or two usually that are kind of in the vicinity or at any given time. Whereas some of you probably have 4, 5, 6. I don't know. So yeah, it's just a thought.
I want to grab that real quick because I like that. But somebody said something that made me think of this. But you know, when my husband is at work, I don't call or text him because it's the time he needs to get work done. And unless it's a serious thing, you know, like I need to get a hold of him for something, that time is his. And if he doesn't have time for me during that time, that's not something I take personally. That his work time. And this person mentioned, you know, like that time that we understand what it is and we set it aside. But for some reason, in my case, I feel like all my time should be open whenever anybody needs me. And so why is it okay for these other people, and I don't just want to say spouse, because it could be anybody, to set aside their work time is kind of sacrosanct because this is when we get stuff done. But I can't do that. For some reason, my self-worth is tied to my ability to make people happy or be available for them. Or if my kid comes and wants a juice box and my husband is playing a video game, I still feel like I should be getting it for him instead of saying, hey, you know that this is mom's work time. You go ask your brother or your dad or whatever. And so like, why do we do that to ourselves and find that if we can't, somehow we're bad or we haven't. So maybe even just setting those kind of invisible borders around certain things. If you don't have time for your wife at this time, that's fair. Everything else is open. You know what I mean? I don't know if I described that very well, but
no, you did. You actually described it much more eloquently, and it touched exactly on what I'm feeling sometimes and how I feel guilty about things that I shouldn't feel guilty about because she tells me you don't need to feel guilty, but yet I do feel guilty. She works out of the home. She's a nurse. She works in a clinic, right? I work out of the house most of the time, which means if she gets home early and I was planning to do work till 5 o'clock,
you have to go spend time
I
with
feel
her.
guilty all of a sudden because I should stop because she's home, right? And I can't shake that feeling, and it gets in there, every day, every week, and it's nothing against her. It's just I can't shake that feeling of guilt.
There's something about working out of the home where we somehow feel that work is less official, but it's not. And and that's why, so that's a big, and there's another dumb thing, but that's a big reason why you see the space that was behind me used to be like, you could walk into a house and be like, oh, that's a space where, like whatever, there was a table and like a hotel room type picture. And that weirdly contributed to me not taking this space as seriously as I should, because it's open. Like my kid's bathroom is right there. This is the landing at the top of the stairs, but it's the only space I have to use. So I decided I was going to start making this space my work space. That's what it is. It's my office. When I'm here, I'm working, and it's as much an office as it would be if I rented one in a building that I had to drive to. And when I'm working, and that has to be fair because we don't have any problems building those barriers in other parts of our lives. So like something about home does that to us. And like, if I'm not being the active breadwinner, somehow my work is less important. And that's also unfair.
Yeah. And then the language that we use, which again, I sounds like I'm bitching, but like she goes to work.
Right.
But I do my thing. Like, no, I'm doing work too. I'm not doing my thing. Right.
Look at Becca.
Do you relate to that, Becca?
I do. Even like the time for your spouse thing. Like Josh comes home for lunch because he works just around the corner from the house, and it's not the same time every day. And he randomly comes home for lunch, and then he wants my attention, and I'm like, no, this is the middle of my workday. Like, go away, go away. And like you guys are saying, it's a big drive for me wanting to put. Eventually, I don't have a door on my office. It's like I don't know. It's like a big weird opening into a hallway, and I want a door there specifically to create that barrier in a physical way. Where like my kids or my husband want my attention, they have to physically open the door or knock and bother me. And if it's closed, maybe they'll just
there was a while when I told my kids, if you see my earbuds in, you're not allowed to come bug me. Don't mess with mom time.
Totally. And the doing your thing. Oh my God, Bassam. Oh my God.
Yeah. How is your nice little fun little art hobby thing that you do? Like, since you're not the one, yeah. Yep.
Ever. I mean, I know we're way over, but like I have had people who like literally don't realize that like I have a job because I work at home.
It's a job. It's a job.
People give me money to do this. I'd rather go do something else sometimes, like take a nap, Like,
my kid yesterday, so we're going to take pictures of, I'm going to show you guys some of them, but because my kid is beautiful, but I'm just going to take pictures of my kid. And he's trying to tell me stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you as the photographer that's not going to work. You have to trust me. This is what I do. And he said something, and I said, kid, you are getting something for free that people pay me thousands of dollars to do. And he's like, people don't pay you thousands of dollars to whatever, or for a picture. I said, no, people pay me thousands of dollars to photograph them. That is what I do. You are getting it for free just because I'm your mom. Like, sometimes, son, people pay me thousands of dollars for advice. So you can't but I work at home, right? And I don't have an office, and I don't have a place that I go. And so even my kids, that leads them to think like my time is somehow less sacrosanct, more easy to like involve themselves in. And it's not, we have to change the way that we think about that. We have to change the words that we use, if that helps, and the space that we're in, if that helps, and the boundaries that we build, if that helps. Like we got to do it.
I'm going to build boundaries around this call, and we're going to put an end to it. My time is valuable.
We can shelf the work from home maybe till next week and focus on that a little more.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, we can marinate.
Yeah. I think there's a lot. I've been working at home since 1999, and so I got a couple of tips and tricks. But here it is 23, 24 years later, and I still struggle with it. Still struggle with some of the things that when I first moved and started having a home office, I struggle with. So yeah, I'd love to talk about that a little bit more and structuring that and all the things that come with it. I kind of like this discussion about balance and time. So next Monday, we'll tune in, same bat channel, same bat time, start thinking about things. And I think, Becca, you need like an on-air sign outside your office.
Yeah, no
but
shit.
You know what? If Josh comes home and there are some skyrockets in flight, just go with it. Like, it is what it is, right? So, listen, guys, that's it. On that note, I'm going to end this broadcast, and we will see you guys in the group. I will put my little time schedule thing in there. But if you have any things about balance or time management that you want to talk about, just put it in the group, and we'll talk to you about it. And I'd love to have that conversation. So, all right, guys. I'll see y'all later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.